Great. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. We're going to get started at noon just now because I know a lot of you are taking time out of your lunch break to come here. So welcome. Welcome to today's webinar, Kids on the Move, Advancing Safe Active Travel, brought to you in partnership with TransLink. My name is Cathy Acuna, and I'm the Community Manager with Hub Cycling. TransLink is Metro Vancouver's transportation network, serving residents and visitors with public transit, major roads, bridges, and trip planning. Hub Cycling is a charitable nonprofit organization that has spent over 25 years removing barriers to biking in Metro Vancouver while cultivating active transportation's health, environmental, and economic benefits. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that I'm joining from the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. These lands have been inhabited and cared for by Coast Salish people for thousands of years before the arrival of European settlers. This recognition reminds us of the enduring connection that the Indigenous people have to their territory and acknowledges that these lands were never ceded. Before we continue, a few housekeeping items. As you listen to the presentation, please use the chat function to ask any questions. We'll give our presenters time at the end to answer them. And just a reminder that this meeting is being recorded and we'll share the recording with the public after, so please don't share sensitive or personal information in the chat. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us. At Hub Cycling, we know that the roots of lifelong sustainable transportation start early. When children learn to bike, walk, and roll in a safe and supportive way, it doesn't just build confidence and skills, it also helps shape habits. If the trips that they take today are fun and safe, there's a greater chance that this can be their default choice later in life. By weaving active travel into childhood, we're hoping towards a generation that sees biking and walking as the easiest, healthiest, most joyful way to move through their community. This vision of safe streets for all and active transportation for every age and ability has been at the heart of Hub's work for nearly 30 years. Through advocacy, education, research, and community programs, we strive to make biking and walking more accessible, equitable, and welcoming for kids, families, and all road users. Today, our programs reach thousands of kids and adults every year. From in-school cycling education and Bike to School Week, to our streetwise urban cycling courses, to e-bike and newcomers programs, to online learning, we're working to meet people where they are. One of our proudest milestones is our Everyone Rides Grade 4-5 program. Now in its 5th year, we've reached 60,000 learners across BC and have so far equipped them with the confidence and skills to ride to school safely and independently. These programs aren't just teaching kids how to ride, but they're also shaping responsible road users. But here's the reality. In a time of tightening budgets at every level of government, and with the pause of the pause here in British Columbia of the Active Transportation Grant, which supports building safer streets, bike lanes, and sidewalks across the province, the future of this work and the safety of kids and other vulnerable road users depends more on community champions than ever before. And that's where you all come in. Whether you're a parent, municipal planner, teacher, advocate, or simply someone who believes that kids deserve safer streets, we at Hub and other active travel organizations across BC and across the country, as you'll soon hear, need your support and voice to call for protected funding for active travel education. We need your advocacy in school boards and city halls, and we need your energy in your communities to help these programs grow, thrive, and reach children who need them the most. So today isn't just a conversation, it's a starting point to empower our youth to build healthier lifelong habits. Let's show that teaching kids to move safely and sustainably isn't a nice to have, but an essential towards greener, more vibrant, healthier, and even more affordable communities. Let's protect these programs, push them forward, and build this movement together. Now, I'd like to introduce our great speakers that are all working towards this goal. We have with us Cassie Smith, who is a mobility researcher, advocate, and strategic lead transportation at Envirocentre in Ottawa. Her experience caring for children in a car-centric suburban environment during the climate crisis inspired her to complete a master's program in geography at Carleton University, focused on how mobility change happens in practices and policy. In her role at Envirocentre, she grows their work, providing impactful climate solutions. Envirocentre supports people and businesses in Ottawa and across Eastern Ontario in reducing transportation emissions by shifting to transit, biking, and walking. They deliver school active transportation programming for the City of Ottawa and have worked on numerous child-focused mobility solutions. Cassie is also Vice President of Bike Ottawa and founder of Critical Mass in Ottawa, which is a joyful celebration and plea for safe streets for kids. She leads a weekly bike bus to her children's schools and is passionate about making the connections between safe streets, youth mobility, health, and climate action. We also have with us Maya Goldstein, who is Hub Cycling's bike bus manager. Maya discovered the world of bike buses after noticing that the bike racks at her children's schools were nearly empty, and she decided to change that. In April 2023, she launched a bike bus in Vancouver that still runs weekly today, inspiring many students to bike to school regularly. She joined Hub Cycling almost exactly a year ago as our first ever bike bus manager, and she has since helped other schools start more than 10 bike bus routes. With over a decade of experience in bike education, Maya is also the founder of Kids on Wheels, a program that introduces young kids to the joy of cycling through balance bikes and gets them excited about biking from a very young age. And last but not least, we have Molly Barkowsky, who is TransLink's regional coordinator for children's sustainable transportation. Her passion for child and age-friendly transportation stems from her multidisciplinary background in planning, active transportation, design, and health. As coordinator for the Travel Smart for Kids strategy, Metro Vancouver's sustainable transportation strategy for children 0 to 12, she collaboratively works across levels of government and organizations to empower children's knowledge of and access to sustainable travel choices across Metro Vancouver and beyond. And with that, we're going to pass the presentation over to Cassie.
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. I'm just going to share my screen. All right, that looks good. Yes, don't hear otherwise. Okay. So thanks so much, Cathy, for the introduction. And I am very pleased to be here with everyone. So I'm joining you today from the unceded and unsurrendered land of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people in what is today called Ottawa, Canada. And I'm grateful for the care and wisdom that these peoples have provided since time immemorial. And I am very excited to be here and talking about this important topic that is near and dear to my heart. I want to start by telling you a bit more about Envirocentre. So as Cathy noted, we are a nonprofit organization that is based in Eastern Ontario, and we've been around since 1999. Did I just drag this? Sorry. My computer's having a moment of issues. There we go. Okay. Apologies. We have a team of over 70 staff, and we work on practical solutions to reduce emissions. To do that, we work in 4 key areas: home energy efficiency, sustainable transportation, green infrastructure, waste, and circular economy. These are areas where we know that human impact has the greatest influence on climate change, and it's places where organizations feel the pressure to act most directly. Our approach is grounded in these 6 strategies. We use positive, practical, vision-focused messaging to inspire action. We work collaboratively to catalyze impactful climate action everywhere. We mobilize action to make plans a reality, and we look to scale and grow the impact of projects. Our vision is focused on forward-thinking approaches, and finally, we actively listen to many sources to find a good path. As the strategic lead for transportation, my focus is on how Envirocentre can have the most impact reducing emissions from transportation. This is important because nearly 12% of emissions in Canada come from cars, SUVs, and light-duty trucks. Transportation is the top source of community GHG emissions in the city of Ottawa. The focus of our transportation programs at Envirocentre is to encourage a behavior change from driving by default to considering and using transit, walking, and biking for more trips. We work with businesses, municipalities, and institutions to support this mode shift. And we emphasize that mode shift is not simply a climate solution. It is also a solution for affordability, equity, physical and mental health, and safety. And it's also about our future, which is the main motivation for me in this work, both professionally and personally. I'll be honest, I didn't really think much about transportation for most of my life. I got around by car, by bike, by bus. I tried to choose a green option whenever I could. And for the most part, that was pretty easy. But then my first child was born, and all of this became much more challenging. My family even bought a second car soon after my parental leave ended. And this really frustrated me, and it led me to want to understand why, more about what our transportation systems are planned to do and why it was so difficult for me to make the choices that I had done before now that I had a child. And this led me to go back to school and to do a master's degree to understand how policies and behavioral practices change or how they don't change. And it also led me to cargo bikes. That's my Urban Aero cargo bike in the picture in the middle with my kids, a little tiny baby tucked in under my shirt there who's now 4.5 years old. It also led me to become an advocate for family and children's mobility and organizing some of those group events that Cathy mentioned and a bike bus to school. It also helped me to really understand why sustainable and active mobility can be such a challenge for families. And a challenge it is. So this just gives you a snapshot of the challenge that we're facing when it comes to youth mobility. We know that across Canada, most kids are being driven for most of their transportation needs. 74% of Canadian children get to school by motorized transport. And this is even for very short trips. 53% of students who live less than 5 minutes from their school use motorized transportation. And this is some data from Ottawa's most recent Origin Destination Survey. So it looks at all weekday travel, not just the school run, but you'll see the percentages are nearly identical. It's 75% of trips are by motorized transportation. So you may be asking, why? What are some of the reasons that there's so much motorized transportation for children? And those reasons are multifaceted and overlapping. So there's decades of land use and transportation planning decisions that have led to a built environment where the places that we live are often far removed from the destinations where we need to go. Networks and schedules prioritize commuting trips, not care trips, like many of those taken by families. And many schools have been located on busy streets and have very large catchment areas. Across the country, public transit has been under-supported and underinvested in for many, many years. And active transportation infrastructure like sidewalks and bike lanes are often uncomfortable or inadequate, which leads to real and perceived safety concerns. There's also very strong cultural norms associated with cars in our culture, and some strong and unquestioned habits in our lives. There's also biases, which researchers have called motonormativity. There have also been changes to family structures and pressures on time, resulting in time squeeze. And honestly, I could go on and on. There are many more reasons, but what I want to emphasize is that this also means there are a lot of levers to be pulled and potential strategies to create change. A primary way that we work on mode shift for kids at Envirocentre is by focusing on school travel. School trips are the most common trip that most children are making, and they can also determine some of those patterns and practices and habits that can be used for other modes of, or other trips that they're going to as well. So Envirocentre has been delivering school transportation programming for over 10 years, and we currently deliver the school active transportation program on behalf of the City of Ottawa. The goals of the program are to increase the number of students who walk or wheel to school on a regular basis, and to calm and reduce traffic in the school zone, making it safer for everyone. We've had 48 schools graduate from the program, and on an annual basis, we engage with more than 2,500 elementary school students. We estimate that the program reduces up to 4.5 tons of GHG emissions per school per year, which is the equivalent of almost 2,000 liters of gasoline. So this school active transportation program is based on the school travel planner model from Green Communities Canada, and it focuses on the 7 E's: equity, engagement, education, engineering, encouragement, evaluation, and optionally enforcement. When a school joins the program, we meet with school staff and other stakeholders, including parents, teachers, and others in the community and in the city, and undertake a walkabout on site. These findings and observations are the starting point that inform the school travel planning process that then incorporates these 7 E's and outlines measurable steps for Envirocentre, for the school, and for the city. As part of the program, we do things like hosting engagement activities or events like a walk to school day. The mascot there in the middle, named Fizz, often makes it out to schools to encourage active transportation. We also do in-class presentations and provide resources and conduct data collection and evaluation specific to the school. Schools are typically enrolled in the program for 3 to 5 years. And when a school graduates, we identify their achievements, identify any outstanding items from the plan, and provide resources and encouragement to continue supporting active transportation. Here's a quote from a teacher at one of our recent schools, Chapman Mills Public School in Barrhaven, which is an outer suburban area in Ottawa. They say, "The students are getting active and are starting to understand the importance of active transportation. The bike racks have been quite full as of late too, with upwards of 40 bicycles being ridden to school and many scooters as well." So as they say, it works. So this is some data comparing schools which have never participated in the school active transportation program and those that have or were currently enrolled in the program. So you can see some major increases in walking to school and changes in driving behaviors. We encourage folks who drive to park further away from the school and walk a block to reduce and disperse vehicle traffic, pollution, and to encourage some active transportation. I'll note that respondents to the survey were able to select multiple modes, so it doesn't add up to 100, but there is an increase of walking trips by 17%. And this aligns with some academic research on active school travel planning in Canada, which found that a relative change of 18% of increase in walking and biking over 5 years. In addition to the school active transportation program, we also work on custom programs tailored to client needs and funding opportunities. For example, we've worked with the Ottawa Student Transportation Authority to produce toolkits. These toolkits are available on our website. On the left is one about hosting a safety blitz at a school. So for a safety blitz, volunteers use very large signs to communicate safe and unsafe behaviors in the school zone. On the right is a toolkit for planning an event to celebrate Walk to School Day. Our goal with these materials is to make it effortless for educators, caregivers, or other community members to make these activities happen. They include detailed checklists, templates, resources, and ways to connect to curriculum and more. We also pilot and test new ideas for youth mobility. So one of Envirocentre's most successful campaigns is our annual Let's Bike Month celebration, where we have thousands of participants log their trips by bike and see how many kilometers they travel, how many car trips are replaced, and how many GHG emissions are reduced. This happens through an app and has elements of gamification that make it really effective with our adult audience. We wanted to test if that would work well with kids, so we launched Hop. Hop is an app to log walking trips and win prizes. Teachers can create Hop teams, and schools can host friendly competitions where classrooms compete to see who can walk the furthest or the most kilometers in a certain month. Last year, we scaled the app up, so it includes school boards from across Ontario. The app has had more than 35,000 kilometers of walking tracked, but we've learned that some of the strategies that work well with adults don't necessarily work the same way with kids. So kids often aren't using mobile devices, and it adds an extra for parents, possibly at the end of a long day. And a school year is a much longer commitment than a 1-month challenge. So we're applying these learnings as we continue to encourage HOP with a greater focus on some specific seasonal challenges like Walktober and Spring into Spring Week. Another way we work on pilot projects is to spur on larger changes. For example, we saw the school streets that were taking place in other communities like Vancouver and wanted to support communities here to explore the idea. So we applied for some grant funding to produce a feasibility study and understand what it would take to make school streets happen in Ottawa. The study revealed that existing bylaws do not permit street closures on weekdays between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. And the study recommends what would be required to make the school streets happen, such as making changes to those bylaws. So there are a few challenges in this type of work. School populations can be a bit of a difficult audience. Principals, educators, students, caregivers are changing frequently. That means that even if a school community graduates from the program, that knowledge and experience doesn't always remain at the school. The program works best with really engaged schools and communities, but these audiences have a lot of competing priorities and can lack capacity. Some of the initiatives rely on volunteers and caregivers, which can be hard to find, to maintain over the long term, and is not very equitable. And with some of the digital toolkits, links can expire, making that information less easy to find and hard to keep up to date. But there are also opportunities. So we know that these efforts are very effective. They create real change, greenhouse gas emission reductions, and are inexpensive interventions. A recent systematic review found that safe and active school transportations had a median cost-benefit ratio of 4.4 to 1, meaning that for every dollar invested, more than $4 in benefits came out of that. We're always thinking as well about how to scale up to reach more children, families, and educators. So one of our recent adaptations is to introduce a short-term stream of the school active transportation program. So rather than doing the 3 to 5 year process, schools can come in for just 1 year, and it gives us another touch point and a way to reach more people. We're also exploring opportunities to grow with children as they become youth and young adults. And understand how this type of work can be effective for middle school, high school, and post-secondary audiences. And there is a lot more work that we can do incorporating equity. This picture makes me think of my dad and others from his generation and earlier who would talk about walking a mile to school uphill both ways in knee-deep snow. I believe that this work is very important for making sure, with perhaps a bit less hyperbole, that walking to school in the snow is an option for young people today and tomorrow. So thank you so much for the opportunity to be here with you all today, and I will pass it over to Maya.
Hi, everyone. I'll just turn on my camera. Can you see the slides okay?
Yes. Looks good, Maya.
It looks good. Okay, great. So 1 second. I'll just get started. Yeah, thank you, everyone, for being here today. And thank you, Cassie, for your wonderful presentation and insights from Ottawa. It's always great to see what's happening in other places. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. My session is about creating a school active travel culture through the bike bus. 1 second. And yeah, just let me know. Can you still see it okay? I just want to make sure It's all good.
You can see your timer now, Maya.
Okay, so just
That looks good.
okay. Okay. So you can see the slides?
Yes, all good.
Okay, great. Um, second, sorry, just yeah, so a little bit, sorry.
Looks good. Sorry.
Okay. You can just see the slides, right?
Yeah, all good.
Yeah, okay, great. So just a little bit about me. As Cathy mentioned, I'm the bike bus manager at Hub Cycling, and I live in Vancouver with my family of four. I have two kids. You can see them here. They're just a little bit older now than when this picture was taken. So as a family, we use our bike as our main mode of transportation, including getting to school. And when my other son started school, it was in COVID, and we really didn't feel like we knew our community or the school very well. We also noticed we were one of the only few families biking to school regularly, which really made me wonder why this was happening. And with that, I start to hear about bike bus in Portland, Oregon. And I thought it would be a really neat idea to get our school involved with something like that. I also wanted to make the trip to school safer and more enjoyable for my kids. And today in this presentation, I will share my journey starting a bike bus, both as a parent initiative and also insight about our Hub Cycling bike bus program that started last spring. So the bike bus program is part of a large bike education program we offer at Hub Cycling. Our programs are designed to teach cycling knowledge and confidence from elementary school right through to adulthood. Our school programs, Learn to Ride and Ride the Road, are delivered in elementary school across BC and have been in Metro Vancouver since 2014. We have the Learn to Ride. It's our introductory safe cycling course designed for students in grade 4 and 5. And this program is offered province-wide, proudly supported by the province of BC as part of Everyone Rides program. Ride the Road is an immersive cycling safety course for all the students in grades 6 and 7. And Streetswise brings cycling knowledge and enthusiasm to all their learners in other non-school groups with bike and e-bike skill courses, e-scooter courses, workplace workshops, and webinars, and costume programming. So the bike bus is our newest program. And it is it's not showing, but it's supposed to show. The bike bus is our newest program, which started rolling since spring of 2025, thanks for funding from the province of BC and collaboration with Society for Children and Youth of BC. The bike bus program reaches students from all across grade levels, but we really see a majority of younger students from kindergarten to grade 3. Not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure why, but my slides are not advancing.
Maya, do you want us to share the slides for you? Would that
Yeah,
be?
I'm not sure why I can't advance this slide. So yeah, maybe.
Okay. Our IT person's gonna share, but we'll also share Maya's presentation deck in a follow-up email. Do you want to just continue with your presentation and we'll pull up?
Just 1 second. Oh. Oh, there we go. I think it's working now, so I can continue. Yeah, I think it's okay now. So what exactly is a bike bus? And you can say children biking to school together along a set route with adults supervising. And children can join along a certain stop like a bus. Or as one of the students said, it is everyone comes together on bikes. But there's also so much more into it. It's about making this trip to school fun. There's usually music too. It's making it to a very cheerful event. It's about making the trip safe, as there is safety in numbers. And for kids, it's mostly about being able to bike with their friends. And I want to quote here from Gemma Simon from the University of Barcelona, who just completed her PhD research on Bike Bus. Bike Bus has more special features that makes it prone to positive impact. It is weekly, it involves the family and friends, it increases skills on a daily trip, and it creates identities. The benefits of the bike bus are huge and affect the whole community. It's about getting kids active and healthy, teaching them skills for life, connecting families, and building community bonds. And it's also about reducing chaotic traffic and emissions around schools. And it's a way to normalize biking as part of our daily routine. So most of us are probably familiar with the issue of traffic around schools. This is often described as traffic-inducing traffic or the vicious cycle. This means parents are driving their children to school because it's too dangerous to walk or bike to school, making it even more dangerous to those who want to walk or bike to school. So the idea for the Gordon Elementary bike bus really came partly from this frustration and from seeing the bike racks mostly empty for a number of years. And now I want to mention another research study that was done by Cecile Lau, a master's student at Urban Studies at SFU, who is just completing her thesis, a case study on the Gordon Elementary bike bus. And last year, she joined a few of our rides and interviewed parents and myself and the school and city staff members. And I share a few insights here. So when we started the Gordon Elementary bike bus, as I mentioned, almost no one was biking to school regularly, and the bike racks was almost always empty. And I heard about the bike bus in Portland, organized by PE teacher Sam Balto, and I was really inspired, and I thought it would be nice to start something similar right in Vancouver. So when we started, we were really just two very small group on a rainy Friday just before Earth Day. And because we started small, we saw the potential to grow. So we decided to keep it going every Friday, and things got much better over time. And we felt much more connected to our community, and we got to know many families who we wouldn't otherwise meet. And really, the biggest takeaway is that bike buses take time, commitment, and consistency to make them work. And here we can see where we were at the end of our first spring. And then a year after, in June, we really grew. And in June of 2025, the end of last school year, we were really big group already biking to school together, and our bike bus is still going every Friday. And of course, the bike racks also look so much better now. So what's happening in bike bus worldwide? It is a massive global movement, and there's about 500 bike buses worldwide across at least 17 countries. And the current wave of bike buses started in Barcelona in 2021 with just one route, 1 day a week. And today, Barcelona BC Bus has 15 routes running a few mornings a week. And inspired by Barcelona, PE teacher Sam Balto started the bike bus in Portland in 2022. And it began just with one school every Wednesday morning. And now Portland has over 20 school running bike buses. And Sam Balto is leading the Bike Bus World Organization. And in Vancouver, the bike bus started in 2023, inspired by Portland. And even before I started this role at Hub Cycling, I got a lot of questions on how to start a bike bus. And a few parents across Metro Vancouver and Victoria started parent-led bike buses. And last spring, we started the Hub Cycling bike bus program. This is first of its kind program where our Hub Cycling instructors support and lead the routes, and we work closely with parents volunteers. We currently support around 10 bike bus routes. So this program, it's really made possible through collaboration between so many different organizations, school parents, our instructors, and of course the children. This collaboration allowed us to grow quickly. Our cycling instructor are supported the different bike buses, and we currently have 9 schools doing or going to start a bike bus. And we have 2 schools in Vancouver that are led by our delivery partner, Capital Bike. And we have some schools that are now doing multiple routes. And we have 2 schools with many students who live outside of their catchment area, where we have double drop-off from 2 directions. We are really trying to accommodate community and schools' needs. And we can have between 50 to 150 students participating weekly across all the schools in this program. And we find it's really mostly depending on the season and weather. And some of our schools started in April, some of the schools were added in September. And this program really made possible from funding from the province of BC and our partners at Society for Children and Youth of BC, who are running the walking school bus program. And we really had a lot of inquiries for this program, and more than we could accommodate for right now. And we are also working with parents volunteers in each school and identify these main areas for our volunteer training sessions to ensure safety and fun. One of our goals is to keep the program sustainable, and we are training parents volunteers to lead the bike bus and feel more comfortable with that and move some of our routes to parents-led models. The impact has been significant, even from our end-of-year survey, when the program was only running for 3 months. Parents already reported that children are willing to bike more outside of bike bus and that they're learning to navigate and safe cycling skills. And parents also provided testimonial that the bike bus changed their family commuting habits, and children became more enthusiastic and confident about biking. And the bike bus also leads to behavior change and getting used for biking year-round. As one of city staff members said, those kids keep biking even through fall and winter. They're riding through bad weather because it's just part of their routine. And I would add to that they also enjoy it. It empowers them and it gives them energy for the rest of the school day, even on cold and rainy days. So the bike bus is one component of a wider active travel culture. At Gordon Elementary, it's really paved the way to introduce other active travel programs, such as School Streets. So the School Street program is offered here in Vancouver by the City of Vancouver since 2021. And each spring, there were between 3 to 7 schools participating. It does require a lot of parents volunteer for a few weeks each spring, but the benefits are huge. And you can really see how the block by the school become joyful and kids are outside playing, and the pickup and drop-off time become much less hectic and a lot more fun. In Paris, there are about 300 permanent school streets. So school streets is also a global movement. And the bike bus can make difference even to those who don't actively participate in it. It can lead to conversation about traffic awareness, encourage active commuting, even to those who are not en route or on other days of the week, and it could lead to other projects. So in our school, this project was led by the school art teacher, and they feature messages about traffic awareness. And this gets a lot of attention because people recognize that these messages are coming directly from the students themselves. And before we wrap up, I just want to mention the bike bus impact on infrastructure changes and awareness of children routes to school. In this intersection in the photo, after communication with the City of Vancouver, a few more seconds were added to the crossing times. And this makes it safer for everyone, including elderly people who often cross these intersections. So also with our bike bus program, we're collaborating with the City of Vancouver to emphasize where changes are needed. And one of our routes is being recommended for changes to give cyclists the right of way there. The bike bus is leading to more awareness that schools need good and secure bike parking. The City of Vancouver also provided the bike bus stop signage. This makes it clear and visible where students need to wait in order to join the bike bus. And it increases the bike bus visibility even when the bike bus isn't physically there. So what can we do? We can be part of the solution. You can think about starting a bike bus or a walking school bus. You can talk to your school's parents advisory council. You can advocate for safer infrastructure around schools, and you can encourage your municipality to invest in active travel programs. Hub Cycling has another program called Bike to School Week, which is a great opportunity to get involved. And remember that even a small change can make a difference. And you can find more resources about how to start your own bike bus on our website. And thank you everyone for joining us today. And please reach out with any questions and inquiries.
Thank you, Maya. I will hop into my presentation now. Can everyone see my screen?
Looks good, Molly.
Perfect. So we've just heard some great examples of what's possible at the school and community level, like bike buses and education and programs. I want to zoom out today and explore what it takes to make these kind of successes stick, grow, and multiply. Today, I'll be speaking on collaboration, strategy, and capacity, and how we can work together to sustain momentum for children's mobility. My name is Molly Barkowsky, and I work at TransLink as the Regional Coordinator for Children's Active Travel. I want to start with some excellent news. We already have the solutions. We know that active transportation is good for kids, and it's good for everybody else. Not only does it get people moving their bodies, which strengthens physical and mental well-being, but for children in particular, it builds habits and routines that shape the way they perceive travel and choose to travel into adulthood. Children build confidence when they're moving independently, and active travel leads to strengthened social ties and community trust. You can see a glimpse of the joy and connection in the video of the bike bus and the play street. And we've heard about several of the programs and opportunities that have been developed to support children in moving actively. These programs are effective and they're seeing real change. For example, across just 9 walking school bus routes, which are a twice daily trip to and from school, delivered by Society for Children and Youth with support from the province and TransLink, children walked over 29,000 kilometers, avoiding almost 5,800 kilograms of greenhouse gas emissions. And really significantly, we saw mode shift. 30% of participants drove 3 to 5 days a week before participating. And by the end of the year, this figure had dropped to 4%. Not only do these programs work, but children want to participate. When 5,000 grade 4 students were asked about how they would like to get to school in 2021, only 10% of the students who wanted to bike to school were actually biking to school. On the other hand, almost twice as many students were being driven to school versus the number of students who wanted to be driven. So this is a relatively small example, but it takes only one trip on the bike bus, as Maya showed, to see how kids are craving movement, connection, and independence. Unfortunately, transportation data is only reflecting a wider shift away from physical activity amongst today's children in all areas of their life. Only 26% of BC children are meeting the recommendation of 60 minutes per day of movement in grades 6, 7, and 8. So let's debrief. We know that active travel supports health and well-being for kids and families. We know that kids want to be active, but they're not moving enough. And we have developed effective programs and education across the province and country that are helping kids move actively. So what is missing? What is stopping the momentum from growing and multiplying to all communities? Today, I will be talking about the how. Specifically, we need collaboration, strategy, and capacity to see lasting change. I'll dive into how you can set up sustainable systems for active transportation in your community inspired by real examples. So this is our roadmap for the next 10 minutes, and you can follow along at the top of the screen as well. Overcoming silos through collaboration, identifying direction through strategy, and sustaining the momentum through dedicated capacity. We can first acknowledge that there are a lot of people involved in children's active travel. You have the schools, health authorities, multiple levels of government, transportation authorities, researchers and institutions, community organizations, and of course, the parents, caregivers, and children. Each of these groups have unique roles to play, but despite having diverse mandates, I want to emphasize that there is more that brings us together than apart. For example, think about the common themes around safer streets, connected communities, healthy kids, and clean air. Identify those goals first and use them to unify and bring people together. Many of these shared goals are already established in existing plans or strategies. For example, you can think in your community of transportation plans or road safety strategies, climate, public health, air quality, and childcare strategies. Next, establish clear roles and responsibilities. This will look different in each setting, but organizations may be able to contribute time, funding, and other resources to advancing these shared goals. And they're likely already working towards these goals in some capacity. Finally, institutionalize collaboration through ongoing communications, such as monthly meetings or a memorandum of understanding. Working groups and committees, as well as cost-sharing agreements, are other ways to embed collaboration into your organization. The key here is making sure that the partnership doesn't just exist with the people involved, but at a deeper organizational level, because this is where you see real change. And Cassie mentioned that, especially in schools, as children and parents are aging through. The impact of collaboration is leveraging the resources that we do have effectively, identifying and filling key gaps, and reducing overlap, such as organizations working on developing the same program or making the same resource. We can really learn from each other and align our goals to activate real collective impact and systems change. There are so many amazing collaborative groups across Metro Vancouver, and I see so many in this workshop right now. Just to name a few, the North Shore Safety Council, Richmond Traffic Safety Advisory Committee, the Travel Smart for Kids Regional Working Group, and the Yenadin Active School Travel Committee in Maple Ridge. I want to share specifically about this last example, which has seen true progress through collaborative efforts from the Yenadin community. Parents, the City of Maple Ridge, School District 42 came together through ongoing meetings and a coordinated direction, and they identified and supported both programmatic solutions, such as Drive to 5, where you park about 5 minutes away from the school and you walk to the school, walking and biking events, cycling education, and an active school travel symposium that brought together folks from around our region. They've also worked on infrastructure solutions, such as sidewalk improvements, flashing crosswalks, which are shown in the photo there, and other improvements like art and beautification. This collaboration has incited momentum and engagement in active travel for the Yenadin and broader Maple Ridge community. Once you've established and acknowledged the needs and goals as individuals as well as a collective, you can embed these goals in a strategy or action plan. This will give your partnership shape and direction, and will give you a way to measure the successes that you have and identify any gaps that emerge. So there's a few key tenets of strategies. And depending on the scale you're working on, it might take multiple years to develop this, or it could be an all-day workshop. But you start with those clear shared goals that you identified first with the partners. These goals trickle down to tangible actions that you can accomplish. Then you need timelines and responsible parties to make sure that these actions are going to see movement and momentum. Finally, you need to measure these actions to understand what your impact is. You can create targets or key performance indicators, which are essentially ways to continually track your progress and understand what's happening. So let's go through an example from the Travel Smart for Kids strategy, which is Metro Vancouver's children's active and sustainable travel strategy for ages 0 to 12. One of our two key goals is to increase trips made by walking, cycling, and rolling and transit for children. This is a fairly broad goal, so we tie it to tangible actions that we can accomplish, such as implementing a short-term pilot program to support children's active travel, like a walking school bus or a bike bus. Next, you want to identify who's responsible for these actions. So here we have 4 responsible parties, and we have a timeline within 12 months. Finally, we're going to measure progress by counting the number of local governments with pilots and programs each year, since in Metro Vancouver, we have 23 local governments. We track this annually with all of our partners. We can see where we're doing well as a region and where the gaps are that might need additional support or energy to get them moving. We actually have 56 actions in our strategy, a strategy that was collaboratively created with input from cross-sectoral partners, many of which I mentioned in the section before, within the Metro Vancouver context. Having a strategy gives this group a framework. We know what to do next. We know who has to do it and when, and we understand what we've done year after year. This strategic approach in Metro Vancouver to supporting children's active travel has seen significant progress and milestones. And so we know where we're at in the region, despite having so many folks that are working in different fields and capacities. And this brings me to the final piece of the puzzle in how we get things done: capacity. Something in common with all the incredible initiatives we heard about today is that someone helped coordinate and make it happen. You can have the best strategy in the world and a super capable collaborative group of people who want to make it happen. But unless people have the time and capacity to implement, it's really difficult to sustain momentum. Capacity is about identifying who is responsible for coordinating partnerships and advancing those strategic goals. This is where I encourage you to get creative. There are endless possibilities for how you can build and embed capacity. There are several models for accomplishing this. First, you can have a dedicated full-time staff member working on children's active travel, like my role. You can also have children's active travel as part of an existing portfolio. And this is where you can really get creative. I have seen children's active travel embedded in transportation demand management, education, sustainability, health, family services, community planning, facilities, and many more. You can also cost share across different organizations and levels of government. Since you have those aligned and shared goals established already, you can make progress on those shared goals and identify them collectively and share funding between organizations. Finally, capacity isn't always a staff position. By working together and aligning your work, you do inherently increase capacity, which is why partnerships and collaboration are so important. And these opportunities for capacity can be embedded within regional and provincial authorities, local governments, school districts or PACs, and not-for-profit societies. So let's see some examples of this in progress. You can really get creative and think of where capacity for children's active travel might fit within your organization. This is by no means a comprehensive list, but rather a small sample of where children's active travel capacity is and can be embedded. Within the dedicated full-time staff member category, we have full-time roles at the City of Vancouver, Seattle Public Schools, my role at TransLink, and program coordinators like at the Society for Children and Youth of BC or at Hub. I've added a star beside the roles that are cost shared by at least one external organization or level of government. When we look at the second column, we see capacity embedded within diverse portfolios, such as planning, engineering, transportation van management, sustainability, and health. And I see all of these folks on this call, which is so encouraging. The possibilities are endless, and I encourage you to think of where this work can fit in your organization or in your community and who could potentially support it. My key takeaway from today is that collaboration, strategy, and capacity are the roadmap to sustained momentum and action for children's active travel. These help you avoid burnout and ensure that you never have to do everything, but rather that you're a partner in the solution of long-term active transportation behavior change that truly changes communities and lives. This is our vision beyond Metro Vancouver and for our province and our country. I'm more than happy to chat with anyone about this offline, and you can find my contact information here. And if you work in children's active transportation in Metro Vancouver, reach out, and we'd love to join. Love for you to join our regional working group for Travel Smart for Kids strategy. Thank you, everyone, and Hub for hosting.
Thanks so much, Molly, and thanks so much, Cassie and Maya, for sharing your insights and your experiences with us. And you've given me, as a parent who walks my kids to school every day, and advocates and active travel experts, schools and policymakers on the call, a lot to think about and some great ideas to help move these types of programs forward and maybe get the ball rolling in their communities. We received a few questions from the audience, and I know our time's limited, so we'll try our best to address them, but you can always reach out to us by community@bicub.ca, and we're also happy to follow up with any questions that you might have that might have gone unanswered and get those answered for you. So we have a question from Anders in Burnaby, and he wants to know from Maya, but Molly and Cassie, feel free to jump in. Have there been any patterns of opposition from caretakers or non-school involved residents with the bike bus rollout? And I guess we can expand this to other programs that might impede parking, such as school streets. So Maya, did you want to try to answer that question?
Sure, yeah. I think from my experience, most of the reactions from the neighbors and community is very positive. We see actually people who are not on the bike bus, neighbors or other people who are walking to school, stopping and cheering or just smiling, being very happy. Personally, I haven't heard any opposition on also from our participating schools in the hub program. I think school streets sometimes get a little bit more of opposition because there's something about a closure of a block that makes some people think this is unimaginable. And this is where we get some opposition. Even yesterday in our school streets, a neighbor came up to me to ask, why is it even needed? And all the reasons I gave him were still not enough. And so this is really what makes our work really, really important, to really try to change that kind of mindset.
Thanks, thanks, Maya. And I was lucky enough to have a child who attended a school that benefited from the school streets. And there was some rumbling before it started, but once the community noticed the benefits and how much joy it brought to the community and the kids, all those complaints completely subsided. So, like you say, it's once the community sees the benefits themselves, and they're also getting quieter streets. So I have one question for Molly. Somebody in the chat, Diane, says that their catchment school is located in a neighborhood that isn't very accessible for walking and biking, and has limited sidewalk space. And she wants to know if how she can get more efficient bus schedules for school routes in place from an organization like TransLink. And I, to that point, we're really lucky in Metro Vancouver that kids under 12 ride free. But maybe you can elaborate on the transit aspect of.
Yeah, specific like transit networks and servicing, we can definitely connect kind of offline. That's not necessarily what I work on usually, but I would say busing is usually for school within the school district. And there are dedicated often budgets for most school districts for student transportation. But especially in areas that don't have accessible active transportation like infrastructure like sidewalks and bikeways to get to school, we often encourage a combination where you do a drive to five. So you drive to a certain area where you meet up with other families and then walk the remainder. So you still get that active transportation component, but it might fit within kind of the infrastructure context. But happy to chat more if you reach out to me.
Thanks, Molly. And I'm really sorry, but we're running out of time. So we have noted all your questions in the chat, and we will be sending around a recording of this webinar after and try to get those questions answered and include that in the follow-up email. But it's so great to have seen so many of you on the call this afternoon. And as we close, I'd once again like to thank TransLink for sponsoring this webinar and supporting these really important conversations and opportunities to share knowledge. And thank you also again to our fantastic speakers who are working tirelessly to make active travel safer and more accessible for kids and their families across the country. Again, we'll share the recording and any resources and answers to your questions in the next couple of days. And just to let you know that Hub Cycling, together with our partners, we've put forward a set of evidence-based reforms to modernize the BC Motor Vehicle Act. Among our most urgent priorities are default 30 kilometers neighborhood streets, and also disallowing right turns on red lights for motor vehicles, which is something that I see was brought up in the chat. So by adopting these reforms, BC can lead the way in road safety and reduce serious injuries and fatalities. And this also ties into how we can support our most vulnerable road users, including kids, and hopefully spur the increase in programs such as active school travel programs, because parents will feel safer letting their kids bike and walk and roll to school. And we're also ready to work with government, community partners, and road safety advocates to make these reforms a reality. So we'd really love for your support in pushing for more safer reforms, road safety reforms in BC. So get in touch with us if you'd like to join us, or if your organization wants to support our cause. And you can always support Hub as an individual by joining as a lifetime member. It's just $10 to become a lifetime member, and it goes directly to our advocacy programming. You can learn more at bikehub.ca/join. We're now at the end of our webinar, and our facilitators will leave the meeting chat open for a few minutes for anybody who wants to leave comments or additional questions in the chat. And thank you again so much, Maya, Cassie, and Molly, for your time and for your great presentations. And you can leave the meeting now. And if you wish, participants, you can also leave the meeting. And thank you so much for participating. And we'll see you again shortly at our next webinar. So stay tuned. Have a great evening or great afternoon or evening, wherever in the country you are.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.